Hey, this is Pastor Bunjee Garrett, and I want to take some time today to present you with another word of encouragement. Well, it's the 18th day of Women's History Month, and so I wanted to take this opportunity to inform you that the people in charge of Planet Fitness, they're so committed to creating a judgment-free zone there in their gyms that they've decided to become the champions of diversity by providing an environment where everyone feels accepted and respected and like they belong there. Well, that is, unless you're a woman who's uncomfortable with sharing the women's locker room with biological men. That's right. And according to their statement, which is found on the Planet Fitness website, Planet Fitness prohibits discrimination and harassment that is based on gender identity or gender expression in the workplace and in their clubs. In other words, if a biological man chooses to express themselves as a woman, well, then they're also permitted to use the women's locker room, including the commodes and the showers. And yes, even if they still have all of their male traits intact. I guess we can chalk up another victory for the patriarchy. Sadly, it was this last week when a Planet Fitness member named Patricia Silva, she actually found herself in the women's locker room, standing next to a biological male who was there at the sink shaving his face. According to her testimony, there was also a 12-year-old girl there in the locker room who was wrapped up in a towel and apparently a little freaked out by the presence of a biological man there in the women's bathroom. It's for this reason that Silva decided to snap a picture of the individual in question and then proceeded to question that member by declaring, and I quote her here, "Why are you here? You are a man with a penis. Why are you in the women's locker room?" Well, then, according to Silva, the Planet Fitness member justified his presence in the women's restroom by saying, "I'm queer, LGB." Well, to that, Silva insisted, "You shouldn't be in the women's locker room." Well, it should come as no surprise that Patricia Silva's membership ended up being canceled. The reason why? Well, it's because she broke the Planet Fitness policy, which prohibits the discrimination and harassment of others based on gender identity or gender expression. Here's how the Planet Fitness Operation Manual explains it, and I quote it here. "Some members may feel uncomfortable with a transgender member using the same locker room, facilities, bathrooms, showers, or other facilities, programs separated by sex. This discomfort is not a reason to deny access to the transgender member. Planet Fitness staff should work with members and employees to address this discomfort and to foster a climate of understanding consistent with the judgment-free character of Planet Fitness." Well, then after a few sections that explain the use of preferred pronouns, this Planet Fitness policy then concluded in this way: Planet Fitness reserves the right to terminate a person's membership immediately for any violation of this policy. Okay, gotcha. So if you're a 12-year-old girl who's a bit freaked out because she sees a biological male in the women's shower, well, then she just needs to realize that this is a judgment-free zone. But if a member complains about this same scenario on social media, then their membership ends up being revoked because Planet Fitness reserves the right to judge those who disagree with their dangerous policy. So much for being a judgment-free zone, right? Well, according to a Planet Fitness spokesperson, Patricia Silva's membership was immediately revoked because she violated their policy regarding the use of mobile devices in the locker room. And here's the official response from Planet Fitness, and I quote it here. "Our gender identity non-discrimination policy states that members and guests may use the gym facilities that best align with their sincere, self-reported gender identity. The member who posted on social media violated our mobile device policy that prohibits taking photos of individuals in the locker room, which resulted in their membership being terminated." Now, from this, we can see that Planet Fitness has policies in place that are designed to protect members in the locker room against those who would take pictures and then post them on social media. And these are the policies that they use to revoke the membership of Patricia Silva, all in the name of protecting other members. But what they're failing to realize is that Silva would have never taken that picture had they also not had a policy that allows biological males to shower in the women's locker room while prepubescent children are present. And while I can appreciate their commitment to creating a place where everyone feels comfortable and safe, The people who create policies at Planet Fitness must realize that most women will never feel safe sharing locker room facilities and bathrooms and showers with biologically male members who still have their members. Listen, if Planet Fitness were truly committed to creating a comfortable, judgment-free environment, well, then they would just go on and create a third catch-all locker room for those who are struggling with gender dysphoria. But until then, listen, I encourage every member of Planet Fitness to realize that this gym is not protecting women from the biological males who believe that they should have access to the women's locker room simply because of their gender expression. In order to understand the issue at hand, let's consider a shocking study that comes from the Correctional Service of Canada. It was actually just last year when the results of this study revealed that 44% of male to female transgender inmates were behind bars for sexual offenses. The study, which was entitled Gender Diverse Offenders with a History of Sexual Offending, this study helps us to see that 85% of the male inmates who identify as women were convicted of violent crimes that caused death or serious harm to their victims. And listen, 58% of their victims were either children or women. That's right, when it comes to the crimes committed by biological men who identify as women, the highest proportion of their victims were children and women. The same study also helps us to see that 41% of the inmates who identify as women are locked up for homicide-related crimes, and we compare this to the 21% of male inmates who are doing time for the same sort of crimes. And to put it simply, biological men who identify as women are much more likely to commit homicide-related crimes than the biological men who aren't struggling with gender dysphoria. Now, this is not to suggest that all men who struggle with gender dysphoria will go on to commit violent crimes. And yet, when it comes to this subset of our society, we must not fail to realize that the violent criminals who are struggling with gender dysphoria are more likely to victimize women and children. And with that being the case, the locker room policies of places like Planet Fitness, well, these policies are at the very least inviting biological men to come and take advantage of women in the privacy of the women's locker room. For example, it was back in 2017, that's when a biological male who identifies as a woman was convicted in Wyoming after being convicted for molesting a 10-year-old girl in a bathroom. In 2019, a biological man who identified as a woman threatened to stab a 10-year-old girl's mother during a terrifying sexual assault in the female toilets of Morrison's supermarket there in Fife, Scotland. In 2021, a Virginia teen was sexually assaulted in the bathroom of her school by a transgender student. And then in 2022, the same transgender student who was basically put back on the streets, he was transferred to another school where then he ended up being accused of another sexual assault on a different 15-year-old girl. In 2023, a 15-year-old girl was attacked and severely beaten in the girls' restroom, at her high school by a 17-year-old biological male who identifies as a woman. And in light of these examples, there should be no doubt that these bathroom policies, like the one employed at Planet Fitness, they're putting women at risk of being attacked by biological men who seem to be struggling with gender dysphoria. It's for this reason that I personally choose to boycott these businesses that allow the patriarchy to gain access to the women's restroom. And, as we celebrate Women's History Month, I encourage you, let's not forget that there are corporations and there are companies out there who are failing to protect their female clients. And they do this by allowing men with mental disorders to use the locker rooms and the restrooms, which are created for biological women. Now, this might make them feel like, progressive heroes to have these sorts of policies. This might make them feel like they're down for the woke cause and whatnot. But in reality, they're really just robbing real women of their own restrooms. Not only that, but they're also employing policies that are in conflict with the definitive design of our Creator. And in order to explain what I mean, I want to consider the way that Jesus explains this in Matthew chapter 19. It's verse 4 where he asks, "Have you not read that he who made them at the beginning made them male and female?" Jesus was referring to the account that we find in Genesis chapter 5 where Moses declares, "He created them male and female and blessed them and called them mankind in the day they were created." In the very beginning of creation, God created two genders. He created Adam and Eve. He created male and female. The males, well, they have the XY chromosomes, and the females, they have the XX chromosomes. And apart from the rare cases of unfortunate birth defects, these are the only two genders that belong within the category of human race. Within the human race, there are two genders which are connected to our specific chromosomes. And while my heart breaks for those who are struggling with gender dysphoria, listen, we don't need to feed the delusion. No, instead we need to present them with the proof that God did not make a mistake when he created them with the gender-specific chromosomes that he gave them. And without a doubt, we are all fearfully and wonderfully made. And it's for this reason that we should help those who are struggling with gender dysphoria to realize that God created them in the way that he created them. He gave them the chromosomes that line up with their gender. And as we get closer to our Creator, we get to understand his design for our lives. And as we get closer to our Creator, our minds begin to align with his perfect will. And so it's for this reason that we should go and preach the gospel message of Jesus Christ. We should preach the good news that salvation and reconciliation comes by faith in Jesus Christ. The fact is, we've all fallen short of God's glory, and it's for this reason that we should help sinners of every stripe to repent and to receive the remissions of sins by faith in Jesus Christ so that we can enjoy reconciliation with our Creator. And in this way, we will go out and fight the good fight of faith, and all for the glory of God.